Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the HGC ANZ Premier League Day 2, Week 1. I'm a Disconcura. I'm your play-by-play caster today. But joining me on the desk is also the amazing man himself, GL Phoenix, in the analyst position. GL Phoenix, good sir, how are you going?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Disco. It's been a great first week so far of this new split, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the games tonight. We've got some great teams coming back, and a few new faces that we get to see for the first time.
Yeah, the off-season really had a bit of a upset or a little bit of a change around in the pecking order, what teams stuck together, what teams have sort of changed rosters. And tonight, first up, we can bring that schedule up. We've got the Pleb2Pro, the newcomers, hitting the scenes up against Xylophone dudes, who haven't exactly had the best start of the season. Unfortunately, losing their games on a Tuesday night to Twisted Vision, new org in the scene, but of course that's some of the remnants of the team Outlaws. So that should be quite a spicy match, GL. And then after that, we have a Crimson up against Aztec. Now that I'm very excited for, because Crimson did see the dropping of their captain Altivian, who's actually going to cross to Aztec. So while I don't think there's any bad blood, GL, I definitely think that it's going to be another spicy match, a bit of a spicy meatball, you might say.
Yeah, they're going to be just great matches all around. And just going back to the first one that we have between Pleb2Pro and Xylophone dudes. As you mentioned, we saw Xylophone dudes on the Tuesday, ended up losing to Twisted Vision, but they were showing a lot of promise. A lot of this team is the remnants of the QM Warriors from the previous split, just with also a couple of the Downfall members who were picked up once that roster ended up falling through. So they do have a very solid lineup, and they were showing very similar tendencies from last split. So they were very strong early. They were able to control in that early to mid game, but once it got later and later, that's when they looked rather lethargic in their shot calling. And I'm just looking to see if they can actually improve on that over the course of the split, because it was a problem that we saw from them last split, and it seems to be popping up here, there, again, at least from that first series. But on the other side, Pleb2Pro, we've got some names that are quite a bit polarizing here in the ANZ scene. I think that's a good word to use. But there's no denying how strong this roster looks. And coming in from Open Division, I think we were all in agreement that they were going to be a reasonable contender coming into this split.
Yeah, there are always going to be, like you said, a contender. They're always going to be someone to challenge the team that's only through some unfortunate last games and some other dealings last season that saw them not make it to the Premier League. But while we speak about new people on the scene, I think there's one major person we should speak about, and that's a shout out to the McDonald's Australia. They are now the proud sponsor of the HGC ANZ region. So a big shout out to them coming on board and supporting this great game and this great league.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have all the extra assistants. It's a whole lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things go moving forward throughout this split. We had a great first split with Mindfreak taking the first spot over in the Intercontinental Clash, and looking forward to seeing who will be able to challenge them, because one thing to note that with from this first week, there have been two teams that we haven't seen. One of them being Mindfreak, because they were coming back from the mid-season brawl. Give them a little bit of time to get back here in time for the season to start. And also, there's going to be an open spot where a lot of the open teams have been fighting to try and qualify to fill out that last spot, because at the end of last split, Downfall, that roster weren't able to hold on to their spot. So it's been left up to the mercy of Open Division, I guess.
That's it. Yeah, there will be an extra game after the Premier League tonight. We'll flip on to the Open Division Grand Final and see who's going to be our 8th team in the Premier League. So it's really exciting. For those who are new to the Premier League and you're wondering, well, how do these teams combat? How do they fight against each other? Well, tonight it is a best of 3, a 1-2 victory who takes out the series. The winner of that gains points onto a standings table, and then at the end of the season, the top 2 will head off to, I believe, will head off into a
The
No,
Intercontinental Clash.
Intercontinental Clash. I believe on our shores, so they're not
Yeah.
going overseas, but they will be doing a Intercontinental Clash against the two top Latin America teams. So very excited to see about that. But that's how the competition works here. It's 8 weeks of competitive play. Every team fights each other twice.
Yeah, and everyone has more than enough chances to make their way up the standings. And just looking at the table that we have so far, yeah, we haven't really seen too much just yet, but already we're looking at Crimson to be one of those front runners because we're looking with that change of Altivian and now bringing in Hacky, they're still an incredibly solid lineup, and we'll be looking to challenge Mind Freak, who they almost were able to take out when they went over to the Intercontinental Clash, and they'll be looking to make it a certainty this split.
They looked good Tuesday night. I'm sure they're going to look good tonight. That's the second match of this evening. It will be Crimson up against Aztec. And you're right. You know, they were an extremely competitive list before they brought Hacky onto their lineup. Hacky has been one of those sort of dream players in the scene. He, not that he necessarily came out of nowhere, but he was an unexpected gem that just really shined. He has jumped from several teams, but that's just the value of this player. Is teams believe that if you have Hacky on your lineup, you're going to win. That's the story here about Hacky.
Yeah, and well, he was on that dark side of the lineup that did qualify for BlizzCon last year and upset the then Nomia, really breaking their streak.
The then Nomia, who is now Mind Freak Pro. Just to put that into perspective of how much success has followed this gentleman called Hacky, who's now on the Crimson roster. But like I said, in our intro, we're talking about a bit of a spicy game because they are up against ex-captain Altivian, who they did drop at the start of this season, who's now a part of the Aztec roster, not in the captain's position, but obviously the experience that he would bring to that lineup, not only against his own team, but the fact that they did go across to Latin America and make a competitive grand final, GL. Yeah. So competitive against Mind Freak Pro.
Yeah, just that series when the whole way was so close down to the wire, and just it was so very entertaining to watch, especially after a split where Mind Freak were looking unbeatable. They just wiped the floor. It wasn't until the very last match against Crimson that they dropped a single map.
Well, it's one of those moments, right? It was a moment in the region. Last year we had Darksided do it. Mind Freak Pro came back even stronger. But then, Crimson has shown us that, if it bleeds, you can kill it, GL. They've sort of renewed confidence in the scene. This season could be anyone's game. But enough about Crimson. Let's talk about the first match of tonight. And that is Xylophone dudes up against Pleb2Pro. Now, Pleb2Pro are the newcomers to the Premier League. They were in open division, but they are another name, just a whole name in themselves that people would argue that they should have been in the top 8 last season. Unfortunately, again, due to some unfortunate losses right at the end of the season and just some other general things happening, they didn't quite make the cut. But they have this season, GL, and they are definitely one of the biggest teams to watch out for. Will they? They're another list that had Hacky on it. An interesting one to bring up. They're another team that saw potential behind the player Hacky as well. So that's going to be an interesting one.
It was a very powerful lineup as soon as it was pretty much put together, and we were very much expecting them to make it through open division, and that's what they did. They were the front runners the whole way through, and due to, I believe it was Embrox not able to hold on to their roster at the end of last bit, they got the automatic qualification through not having to go through the gauntlet. But to be honest, I feel as though they were pretty much the favorites to take it anyway, especially with this lineup. They've got firstly Vicarak, Physics, Moops, and Konya. So players who have been in the scene a while. We'll talk about Hacky and how he was able to go over to BlizzCon with Darksided. Moops is another one of those names who is alongside him, went to BlizzCon, and was a very pivotal point in that team.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is a team. This is an amazing team, and they're going to cause upsets all season. They're going to do. I'm putting big words into motion right now, but they are the people to look at. But I mean, we shouldn't cross off our Xylophone dudes. They are definitely a strong lineup. Like you said, they are quick match warriors combined with members of Downfall. And we remember Downfall was the team last season that was probably the most surprising to come out of just taking victories against teams like Outlaws. Did they actually?
I believe they got a win against Crimson.
Yeah, they beat.
Crucially.
They got a win against Crimson as well. Taking names, taking skulls and names from these bigger teams. A team that was ranked to be maybe about 6th, maybe 5th, ended up being 4th, and they've joined with Quick Match Warriors, who also during last season we saw glimpses of hope, glimpses of talent and progress, as they were probably one of the better developed teams at the end of the season as well. So very excited for this match, Pleb2Pro versus Xylophone Dudes. And we got to shout about these logos, man. Xylophone Dudes, they are rocking.
I like it. And just the fact that we get to say XD on a cast and not actually just be memeing, it's actually the team tag. I'm okay with that.
It is. It's an amazing logo. I love it. But we are prepping for the first game right now, guys. Hold on to your seats. It's going to be a good one. It's I don't know, Gio, do we have any details for this map just yet?
Well, for the map that we're going to be going to, it's going to be Volskaya Foundry. As Pleb2Pro, they chose the first pick in the draft. So the ban of the map went over to, or the pick of the map went over to Xylophone Dudes. Xylophone Dudes banned Sky Temple, so not wanting to see that, which was actually banned in both series on Tuesday. So it seems that teams do not want to be on that one. And Pleb2Pro banned Towers of Doom. So here we are. We're starting out on Volskaya Foundry.
Ooh, I'm liking this one. Volskaya Foundry. I find it's a not quite not as snowball as some other maps, but it does have those potential for big play moments where you just really get a huge momentum boost. But there are opportunities for the other team to come back, so it can be a bit back and forth. But here we are now. The teams are choosing their heroes. Who do you think we're going to see first ban on the list? We see names like Maiev, Genji, Garrosh, maybe even Malfurion come up in the first ban wave.
Yeah, those are some of those high priority picks. And one thing to note, we are on the tournament realm, which means we are on patch 33.0, the Nexomania patch. So some of the things like the armor on a lot of the base armor on tanks are still there. The experience in some of the early towers, they are still there. So, and especially on a map like Volskaya Foundry, those early towers are where a lot of the priority goes towards, especially when you're looking at the first objective, getting that first tri-glove and then taking down towers, just exploding your early advantage and moving forward from that. That is still a thing here coming into this draft, and we're just waiting to see where both teams are going to end up going with for these drafts.
Oh, and Johanna banned out. That was a pretty early, I would say an actually pretty early ban priority on her. Not expecting that. But of course, she is one of the, she's up there in one of the top tiers of tanks. She provides great displacement, pulling enemy heroes in. Really weakens your melee options as well, obviously with her blind. So I, don't know if necessarily first banner, but obviously Pleb2Pro want that out of the mix. They want to have this really strong line, and they don't want it to be displaced or interrupted by a pesky condemn from Johanna.
Yeah, it's interesting that it does come in at the first ban, but it does seem like it's kind of a substitute, or at least wanting to just take something neutral out of the pool and wanting to prioritize something more, some of the high priority heroes. Like, as you mentioned before, the Malfurion, the Garrosh are very big picks. Also, the Maya, the Genji, those are very powerful as well. And just interested to see what the plan is as this draft develops with that first ban on the Johanna.
All right, Maev's been off the table. Xylophone Dudes. Again, we see Maiev banned a lot out. She's a high, again, one of those high priority heroes that can go in there and again disrupt your lines, pull people in all ways, shapes, and forms, and just provide like real great combo wombos or gank potential. Interesting though, we do see that Pleb2Pro picks up the Genji in early pick, and that's going to be really devastating to whatever back line the Xylophone Dudes decide to run. Have to be careful here, if they do decide to go with something like the, let's say the Malfurion here, or maybe they'll go into like a Malfurion Garrosh, or try and secure another one of their assassins. They have to think, well, gee, Genji could be pressure on the back line here, so they might early pick something like Blaze, or again, with the Garrosh, but then they lose out to damage, where now Pleb2Pro can get their preferred options in the next round of selections.
Yeah, and a lot of this has been opened up because of that first ban on the Johanna. There are so many of those priority picks still on the board that because you're not taking one of those away with the ban in like right at the start, you're leaving more on the table, so you can get maybe a few of them once it comes back to you. And it is going to be the Garrosh and the Malfurion, just very solid. It's very hard to look past those two heroes. The Garrosh is just so durable, and a lot of crowd control can really turn around a lot of good situations. And the Malfurion just brings everything that you want out of his support. He has the healing, he has the crowd control, he has he even brings a cleanse, which is also very important with how a lot of these warriors are you're wanting to go for a lot of that crowd control, and the Malfurion can deal with that quite well.
Well, you want to lock him down, right? That's the end of the day. You want to lock down a single target, and everyone on your team gets to blow him up. So if you have a hero like Malfurion that can, obviously his entangling roots can prevent any really big follow-up. He can cleanse the target. Obviously his healing is quite top-notch. I mean, I think we see a situation where Malfurion's almost picked or banned every single series, or it's like a really high pick to ban rate as well.
It's very hard to look past the power of Malfurion, and a lot of it is also due to the power level of the other supports in the pool. Now, they're not all the other supports aren't necessarily bad, but they don't bring the overall flexibility and strength that a Malfurion does. So it is going to be the Stukov on the side of Pleb2Pro. Very strong, has had a few hits over the past months, especially on this patch where it doesn't have that extra healing. But it's still very powerful, but not that overbearing power that you do get that we've had in the past from him.
Yeah, he's definitely died off in popularity because of those little tweaks and adjustments to him as well. So I'm actually quite interested that Pleb2Pro have decided to go on with him, especially when they just characters like Deckard Cain are still about him, though he does have a bit of a setup time to him. He's still, I think, a stronger healer than Stukov in those chances. However, what are the possibilities when we might see a follow-up Stukov-Leoric pick here, as it's sort of been one of the combos?
Well, with both of these drafts, they're rather open-ended, so there's not really anything too crazy being shown, and there's a lot of flexibility once we get into the second part of the draft. So they're not really showing anything, both of these teams, and wanting to try and react a little bit, try and just set up a solid core, which both these teams have with their supports and their tanks already done. The only DPS we have so far in this draft is the Genji, and with not many of the DPS getting banned out, there's quite a few on the table that both teams can look towards.
Yeah, like a huge option. We've seen Jaina be such a almost like a overnight sensation, just rocking out of the mid-season brawl, where she's been taking a lot more games, producing a lot more damage. I like to sort of kid and say Jaina's got like almost 3 power spikes, right? She's got level 13, level 16, and level 20, where her damage just goes through the roof. But of course, if Xylophone's dudes were to pick someone like Jaina, they've got to think, well, gee, that's Jaina up against the Genji.
That's vulnerable to a Genji, yeah. As you were saying at the start of the draft, with the Genji, it forces the other team to think, all right, if we take this, are we just going to be just easy food for the Genji? And it does, and there are times where you think, oh, we need to kind of play around this, and then there are other times where it's like, you have to accept that is a risk, that is going to be a risk that is there in that draft, but you just have to kind of go all in on your strategy and just deal with it as it comes.
Yeah, it's all about, what's the support, what's the play against that. What he's going to do. It's not like Genji has multiple pathways to play. He's going to be sitting there, he's going to be poking along with his team and then look for an opportunity to go in. So do you just go, well, we'll just have that good backline, Leoric can sit there and put a slow and peel off for the target. Sonya could be causing havoc. So you'd want to more sort of like jumping into the enemy's front line or the enemy's flank there. Alarak. You know what? I actually forgot about Alarak. GL, I feel a bit bad about that. Seeing a lot more play from him as well. He just shuts down a lot of our heroes with that silence on his Discord strike. It's a really powerful tool. It gets overlooked. He's one of those guys that everyone competitively for a long time has been saying, he's a go-to character. We want him to be a go-to character, but we just aren't sure. He really just
he rides that line between really good and just not as good as you need him to be, because he has a lot of strength. Silences are so important, especially against heroes like Genji, who are very ability reliant for his mobility and also his damage execution ability. You need to have your ability to be able to do it, and if you're silenced, you can't use those. And having that on the Alarak is going to be pretty important. If they're able to get onto that Genji, silence him, lock him down, and take care of him, it's so very good. But the Alarak, one of the problems he has is that he's an assassin, so he's reasonably squishy, but he also wants to be stepping forward, so he can get caught out a fair bit. And when there's an ETC, that is very easy lockdown onto something like an Alarak, and they could take him out pretty quickly.
That's it. But he's got the Malfurion to back him up. So he's got a friend indeed sitting there for him. But the last pick here, the last pick for Xylophone dudes, I feel they need something to strengthen up or bolster their front line.
Yeah.
You know, they banned out Blaze. You know, Blaze would have been a great addition, I feel, but they banned that out. Their solo lane kind of can be secured with Alarak. They don't necessarily need a tank for that. But I mean, Sonya's still on the board. Might we see something like maybe a Varian?
There are quite a few options still on the board. Even with the Johanna and the Blaze locked out, sure, you're probably not going to take a Johanna in this situation if it was available. You already have the Garrosh as that main tank. But the Blaze would have been a nice pick for them in this situation, but they won't be able to have that for themselves. Yeah, I'm looking like the Sonya is one of those things, unless you want to go for a very squishy lineup, and that's what they're going to go for, the Zeratul. So they want some assassination. They have a lot of damage with the Phoenix, the Zeratul, and the Alarak going all Protoss, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Oh, that Zeratul, obviously the Sarah Lee's locking in the Zeratul to act as a punishment for the Stukov and potentially Lunara. But yeah, you know what? I'm
not sure which way to end up going with this draft, because we look at the side of Pleb2Pro, they have a very solid lineup. They've got a good mix of pretty much everything you need from a team. You've got your support in the backline with the Stukov, who can control areas very well with that lurking arm. You've got a solid front line with the ETC and the Leoric. They're very durable and can also sustain reasonably well as we get later into this game. And Leoric, you really have to take into account that once we get to late game, like very late game, like hitting level 20, Leoric just really ramps up and becomes a menace to deal with. And speaking of menaces to deal with late game, Lunara and her poison, that scales incredibly well. And this is the rework Lunara. We're on the next Mania patch.
Yeah,
she can get a lot of work done late game. So looking at this lineup that Pleb2Pro has, once we get into late game where we start to have those easy front to back fights, I really do like their lineup, but just a bit of chaos into the mix that XD do have in their lineup with the Alarak and the Zeratul. They can get some things to work early on and try and snowball a lead from there. We'll have to see how it works, though.
Yeah, you know, I think you're 100% right there. We see Pleb2Pro has a very transitional composition, right? You know, every hero slowly gets stronger as the game progresses. I wouldn't necessarily say any hero has like a let's say they don't have a terrible opening game, and their late game is going to be great. Whereas we see on Xylophone dudes, I really feel that it's up to them to make big plays in the opening stages, in the opening minutes of the game, to try and snowball a lead out, challenge them, and push back Pleb2Pro. That's kind of what I see with these two compositions. I think if Xylophone dudes can't get themselves a little lead, they're going to struggle in the later game.
Yeah, we just run through the rods. Yeah.
Sorry. Well, we just had a quick pause. We're just sorting out a minor technical issue. It will be resolved very shortly, guys. But this game is a Pleb2Pro up against Xylophone dudes. It is the first match for this evening. Game number 1 in a best-of-3 series. The newcomers, Pleb2Pro, up against Xylophone dudes. The merging, essentially, of Quick Match Warriors and the remains of Downfall from Phase 1 HGC ANZ.
Yeah, while we're just getting ready, we could just run through the lineup. So on Pleb2Pro, we have Konya on the ETC. Firstly, on Leoric, Physics is on Genji, Vikarak is on Stukov, and actually we've had an emergency substitution. So we have Baxtermonium is going to be coming in on the Lunara.
Ooh, that's it. The Pleb2Pro looking spicy indeed. And over on the side of the Xylophone dudes, of course, it's Tommy playing Garrosh, Mad Hacks on Phoenix, Sailor will be playing plays on Alarak and Sarah Lee on Versus.
Yeah, we're just trying to get some of the early pressure, just taking down some of those early waves, and then being the proactive one when it comes to the rotations, and try and get yourself into a good position once a lot of the first objectives start coming up.
That's just looking here, they've actually used Zeratul as the solo laner, channeling up against Leon in the front line. In the top, however, early kill! Phoenix goes down. Pleb2Pro getting their first kill on the board. It's going to be a little bit of trouble for Xylophone. What a name, XD now, as they're going to wait for the hero to come back into that. It's not a long time because it is early games, and the times aren't that bad, but it does slow down the rotation a little bit on the side of XD. It sort of really puts the initiative all on Pleb2Pro right now.
Yeah, that's one of the things about these early kills. They don't necessarily mean much in the grand scheme of things, but it, as you mentioned, it slows down the rotations. It means that they're the ones who are having to react to the plays that Pleb2Pro are making, and they're just going to be a little bit slower, and it allows Pleb2Pro to try and catch them out in rotation. You do have Connie coming from the side.
Oh, look at that. Nice Konya play there. He's sort of like locking down, slowing down the play. They do manage to get a kill on Alarak because of it. That's smart. Yeah, that's just really smart play, GL. We've seen over the evolution of Hero of the Storm in the last 3 years, we've seen in the last 6 months, ANZ teams really start to play on that mindset of the tank's role is to help slow down the enemy team in these rotations. This game is a game of rotations.
Yeah, and there's a very good play from Connie, just slowing down the rotation of the supporting cast, and they allowed them to just pick away at that front line, or the front line DPS that we're seeing out of XD so far.
And, and that's the thing we were talking about with Alarak. He is a bit of a front liner, but he's not like the sustainability of someone like, let's say, a Sonya or a Ray that'll be stand out. But, are they more traditional warrior? A bruiser.
Like a bruiser, yeah. With those melee heroes, you're wanting something that can stick around. And with this combination of the Zeratul and the Alarak, yeah, they're both melee. You want to be in the fights, but they're assassins, and you want to be assassinating people, and that's essentially what this roster, what this composition needs to do on the side of XD. They can't go for these extended fights because the sustainability, the durability, and the damage over time of this Pleb2Pro lineup is just way better.
It is. It's looking like a stronger setup, but we'll see how XD does this. All right, so the point has already been captured for Pleb2Pro. They do back out. Behind this, they can go and sort of like get a little bit of an experience gain or push in a lane, come back, try and sort of challenge it. They're looking now, Konya looking for an opportunity, gets thrown in by Garage. Oh, lots of damage, gets taken out. The Tank Root is fantastic. Mad Hack going down the deep. Leoric looking feisty, and he's taken out now. However, Garage is in a bad spot. The armor does start to kick in, making it harder for him to kill. And there it is, a Xylophone dudes. Pleb2Pro split themselves, and XD took advantage.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Konya was not able to utilize the turret that they were able to pick up from that neutral camp. And as soon as he got dropped, I think it was Tommy picked it up, immediately dropped it, so they had that extra tool in their favor. And that's one of the things that this composition needs to do. They need to get those early kills with that lockdown and then secure their advantages through that. Because if, as I mentioned, if these fights go much longer, I really don't see how they meant to get the fights to go.
Well, there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of damage. So again, Konya looking in big trouble. Does slide out. The rush backs out. And instead, pops the unstoppable. Gets back. Pleb2Pro will capture the point now. And it's up to ZC to recompose themselves and get back into the fight. Sarah Lee wandering around. Has been pinged, followed by the enemy.
Yeah, and because Konya did not go down immediately, they were not able to really finish off that kill. They need to do it with that lockdown as they're trying to get it again.
Oh, Konya again feeling the stress, backs out. Mad Hack just using his natural DPS as sort of a zone tool for back some money and keeping him rail there. Ooh. Sarah Lee trying to some damage done, backs out. However, the protector has been picked up for Xylophone dude. So this is a huge Xylophone actually break away. Building up now, Alarak and Phoenix are out. They're the ones in the protector. That leaves Sarah Lee, Tommy, and Sailor either rotate 2% lane and go for extra experience or help protector in pushing and get a kill and more.
Well, they're trying to lock down onto the garage, but Indomitable does help out. There's only been one of the towers being taken down so far, which is pretty good from the defensive side. Usually you want to be taking down the front wall in the middle and then moving that to most preferably the top lane front wall, and also the healing well to set up for the next Triglav Protector. But so far, there's been a pretty decent defense coming out from Pleb2Pro. Got that eventually.
It's good, but they still haven't taken care of the protector yet. This protector's going to start weakening the wall in the top lane, and 100% what you said, GL, when the next objective spawns, they don't have a safe haven to run away to. Sure, it looks like they'll still have their well for a heal, but that tower is definitely going to be gone by the next phase, by the next objective.
More than likely. Yeah, that front wall gets taken down. As you mentioned, the well is still available, but this is the next mini patch. This is before a lot of the change to tower experience came in.
Well,
and we can see...
the well might not be if that guy gets that getting the shots off.
But yeah, look at the experience lead that we have already for XD. It's a reasonable amount, and a lot of that is just by taking down a lot of those early towers and just exploding that advantage. We do have heroics now on both sides, so at least Pleb2Pro will be coming into this next fight at even talents, and have some very big ones to utilize in this next fight.
Alright, see an invade here from the XD dude. They do see ETC. They're trying to hassle him. Tommy just being a nuisance right now. Pops the taunt. Not in a good situation, however. Is about to fall. That's a bit pricey there for a camp. We see the Leorites in the back line causing hassle. Get taken out. 1-for-1 trade. Silence pop. Physics going in. Konya going in. Looking for a target right now.
Wow.
Lurking arm goes in. Konya gets the slide onto Malfurion. Sarah Lee does fall as well. This is going to be 4-for-1. What a massive trade. What a huge momentum shift. XD doing so well in the lead department, but now it's Pleb2Pro. And not only GL, the top lane's got the Siege Mercs as well, pushing into it. What a huge shift in the game.
Absolutely. It's just stepping forward a little bit too far, and I feel as though Tommy did not really communicate with the rest of his team that he was going in. He pops the Warlord challenge, stepping in, as we do see another pick onto the Phoenix, just trying to hold onto this fort when no one was around. There were 4 members there of Pleb2Pro, and this is what I've always worried about with this team. When they were quick match warriors, this is essentially what they'll do. They get these early leads, and then once we get later into the game, this is a little bit earlier than I expected, the communication starts to break down, and they get caught off in these really weird and that was overly aggressive, and just not the rest of the team was on the same page. They got punished for it, and now, as you mentioned, this is a massive swing over to Pleb2Pro.
Yeah, it's a thing we see too often. Teams dying, going all in for a mercenary camp. And it's cost them. It's cost them greatly. Now we see the reverse happening here. It looks like an invade from Pleb2Pro. They're coming in. Oh, nice Void Prison locks them down. And we see XD dudes about to play a massive Xylophone rip. And they do end up getting scooped up in the trade. They're looking for Konya right now. Tommy doing great job journeying. We see Genji going. X-Strike comes down. Doesn't connect too well. It's a little bit of damage, but not enough. Tommy will fall from behind this. And it's a nice trade right now. But the turret is about to be picked up by Pleb2Pro. So the engagement again goes in their favor.
Yeah, it looked like it was a great start for it with that Void Prison locking down 3, but with how many options that this Pleb2Pro lineup has in just getting out of that afterwards, they were able to do so. And throughout all of that, it was only the Stukov that went down, and they did manage to pick off the Garrosh in return. So after what seemed like it was a really over-aggressive play coming out from Pleb2Pro, getting punished by a good Void Prison, they didn't even get punished to the maximum. This lineup doesn't necessarily have that big... Well, I thought they would have had that big follow-up.
Like it should.
It should have that follow-up, but it just didn't land.
Genji. It should get punished.
Yeah, but now they are down a level. They are at even talent tiers coming into this next fight, and we'll have to see if they can actually get this fight, because it was around the previous objective that they were able to get some of those early fights, and they get a good lockdown on.
Oh, that was really nice there, but Konya's come in, and a big Stukov looking out for that.
Boy.
And we see the wall, the graveyard from Leoric. And he's maybe Konya does the stage dive in as well. They do get the Alarak kill. That's a massive bit of tournament events right now. Pleb2Pro. I think they need to change their name from Pros to Pro. They are just playing this so well. Their debut match, and they're showing us why they were the kings of Open Div.
Yeah, and they're doing so very well with a lot of these fights. And essentially, if one person gets locked down by this combo that XD has, but they still survive, that is a really good opportunity for them to just turn it around. And it looks like XD want to try and contest the point, but it's going to be very risky for them.
Yeah, like anyone losing, anyone dying right now is basically 16th Pleb2Pro with the Protector, with an open lane. You know, it's just a bad situation around. You need another great Void Prison. Ooh, great Guard comes down, looking good for Leoric. Locks him in place. Sailor goes in, pops his Twilight Dream. Nice silence. Doesn't matter, no one's died. Leoric is doing a great job being alive there. X-Strike comes out. Sailor's in trouble. Sailor's dead.
Oh, good taunt.
Tommy's in a bad spot. He's body blocked into oblivion. We still see members following, however, on both sides now. Still looks like in the favor of Pleb2Pro. They have the most alive. Phoenix is trying to escape, but he does eventually get taken down. Blaze the only one left alive, but even Alarak is going to see the bad end of the blade in this deal.
Yeah, it was a really good start to the fight. Yet again, the Void Prison has been coming in at very good positions, but as soon as that went down, the DPS of Pleb2Pro, they looked at the Zeratul and was like, you are no longer having any say in this fight. Took him down immediately, and that's when things just started going haywire on the point. Everyone just going in with their heroics. It was a good Twilight Dream coming out of Sailor, but it just wasn't enough. They were already put too far behind in that fight to really make the most of it. They did get a couple of kills in return, but it just wasn't enough. And this is going to be a very powerful Protector. And we look at the experience lead we have right now, 17, and only just now hitting 15 on the side of XD. And Disco, this is looking pretty rough at this point.
Yeah, the roughs I think a bit of an understatement right now. You know, they're down a talent. They were down about 5 heroes a second ago. And they've got a Protector into the pretty healthy Protector, still with 30 seconds on the board as well. Going into the keep in the base. You know, this is going to be great pressure for the side of Pleb2Pro if they can get it down. And you know what? I believe 100% here that they are going to get this keep.
Yeah, and firstly, gets thrown in, but he's going to be able to survive through a lot of it. Does take a lot of damage, but does manage to get out of there. And yeah, that is going to be that first keep down, and that's going to be massive moving forward. They're not going to look for the end. It's still a little bit too early and a little bit too much in the way. But they are going to just secure that keep and back away with everything. They're in a brilliant position. That is going to be a point of pressure that'll be pushing into the base of Team XD for the rest of this game, and especially when the next objective is going to be on that bottom side of the map. That gives so many options for Pleb2Pro with ways to play around it as Baximonium gets locked down.
Oh, no,
gets out brilliantly.
Get out. You know, that's a great level 10 to take. It's obviously helping keep alive there. Zeratul does die behind that. Tommy will be the next to fall. Ooh, he gets a little bit shielded there from the Groundbreaker. Lovely talent to take. X-Strike comes out, still does not take him out. But the Entomb comes out, Lockdown Sailor and Mad Hack. The Twilight Dream comes out, just giving a little bit of life, but it's still 2 members on the
side
for XD. And we see Pleb2Pro just secure another 2 kills. And look, the world is their oyster. They could put pressure in the top lane. They might not necessarily be able to end for this, but they are going to try.
They're trying to. They want to end.
On the board.
Yeah, and all that's left is the Alarak, so they want to just finish it right here, finish off this first game of this series. And I really have to give a shout out to Vikarank on this Stukov. These lurking arms have been doing so much work, but speaking of doing a lot of work, Blaze just with a massive turnaround play.
Blaze comes in, gets the job done. Sarah Lee, the smart Void Prison on the core, keeping it alive through the fact that they cannot damage it. But oh no, they try to engage too hard. They get taken out. That is, I mean, whoa, that's a great use. You don't see that a lot with a tomb being used as like a bit of a wall to try and escape a situation. So that's smart thinking there on the side of Firstly. But I mean, that is an unfortunate death for Blaze. He tried. He went too hard. He went a little bit too deep, as they say.
He saw the big play in his eyes. He already got one of them, got the 4-man silence, but after that, just stepped a little bit too far forward. But a nice pick up onto Firstly, getting that Leoric down. So that's a nice way for them to try and get a way back into this game. But they still are a fair bit behind. And Pleb2Pro, they are almost level 20. They just need a little bit there. And that means that once they hit 20, they've got their Storm talents, and there is nothing that XD can really do. They need to try and just play it safely, get themselves into a situation where they can fight on even talent tiers, but Pleb2Pro are just not allowing that.
Yeah, Pleb2Pro, once they hit level 20, you're right, GL, they basically unleash their final form, and that is, XD does not want to deal with that. Desperately trying to look for experience around that, clean up the lanes. Alarak's going to be pretty much on almost babysitting duty up the top there, stopping catapults from going onto the core. So again, weakening at the next control point, which, let's face it, Pleb2Pro get the next protector, it'll just walk in through the top lane and probably signal victory for their side.
Yeah, and brilliant engagement.
In. It's happening right now. Mad Hacks' damage is going down there, but Sarah Lee's in a lot of trouble. Lonara is doing the deal. Konya jumps onto the back line with a stage dive now. Sailor's in a bad situation. Will get taken out. Zeratul actually beat him to the punch and was the first one to fall. Tommy on a good spot. Gavroche has the armor, but it's not going to be enough. Will finally fall. Entomb traps Mad Hacks, and we might see if Blaze and Mad Hacks actually escape, but it's still 3 members down on the side of Xylophone dudes. Blaze, knowing that it's almost over, goes and tries to kill against Lunara, is locked down and taken out. Not a good situation for XD at all.
Yeah, and in the end, it's going to be a fall for nothing in favor of Pleb2Pro. They were able to get their level 20s and really just control that fight. And at this point, it's looking very hard to believe that Team XD will be able to come back from this. Looking up against level 20s, they've got a Trigal Protector coming in very shortly. This is going to need some kind of miraculous defense for them to stay alive in this game.
Yeah, we're almost looking at the perfect storm situation happening for them right now. The right amount of craziness to secure it for them. If they can kind of pick up this split right now in the team, that actually this might be an opportunity for them to do something. It's still going to be a bit, disastrous, but they potentially might be able to do something from here when, ETC is the way the mice can play. But no, they don't detect anything. They'll just clean up the lane and see what they can do.
This is looking like it's going to be the death push. With this protector coming in, it's level 21 versus 19. They're still about half a level away. They need to have it for this fight. And we're not actually going to see this protector just barrel down that bottom side of the map. They see the open lane on the top side, and they're just going to go straight onto the core. It's only 74% on it, so there has to be some miraculous defense, and I'm not sure they can actually do it with what they have.
Void Prison is still on the board. That can buy some time for the side of XD, but will they be able to get value if they did do a play like that? Entomb's gone out. There's no one to follow up. Void Prison comes down. Locked out the Protector. Great split. Can they get something going here? They need to get a kill. Void Prison's down for count. There is probably nothing that XD can do right now as their members are slowly starting to be taken out. We do see still go falls. It actually is looking pretty good. This might still be the play they needed. 2 down. Protectors, however, on the core, GL. I think that's all she wrote.
Yeah, they did kind of play that a little bit fast and loose towards the end there, but they had so much to work with that they could afford to be a little bit brazen with that approach. And just with how powerful that protector was, and at that point in the game, the core already had been taken damage. They just weren't able to do both win the fight and also defend against that protector. So very well done there from Pleb2Pro taking up that first game of the series.
Yeah, and doing it incredibly well. The game felt for everyone's side. If you looked at that from a stats perspective, we see Pleb2Pro, 24 kills to 11 against Xylophone dudes. So they definitely won in that regards. But there were solid moments from Xylophone dudes where it looked like they might have been able to shift the momentum. Even in the early game, we knew that they had quite a good early game, securing some kills that we weren't expecting. But I don't know if it's maybe they're just a bit too aggressive, GL, or if they're just they're a little bit miscommunication. Half the team goes in, half the team doesn't. Definitely something that they do need to work on. Either work on communication or work on tactics, because I think they are being a little bit over aggressive at the moment.
Yeah, they did have that good early game. They got that first protector with some good team fighting and utilizing the composition that they had, which was about getting those very early picks and then snowballing team fights from there. But as we saw, they got a little bit over aggressive. They went for the invade onto that neutral camp, and at that point, it looked like no one was talking. Because Tommy went forward on that garage. He got a good taunt onto multiple members of Pleb2Pro, but there was literally no follow-up. They were looking at other people that were trying to deal with the camp. They were trying to. I'm not sure. It just seemed like they were just not on the same page. And then Tommy died, and then the next person died, and then there was a big good chase. They managed to get 4 people out of that, and that's when everything turned around. They were not able to get those good pickoffs all that efficiently at that point because they were behind, and it just snowballed out from there.
Yeah, you said it. You said it in a nutshell. And I think that fight was really indicative of the rest of the series. You know, we just kept seeing similar plays. You know, teams split up. Like there was these great void prisons dropped, but no
The
decent
follow-up was just a little bit out of sync. Yeah.
100%. You know, you can say call it the taunt, call it the void prison, call it whatever. Whatever heroic was used that a big play should have been made from. There was just no follow up.